Maestro Paavo Järvi, welcome to the Digital Concert Hall.
Thank you.
Thank you for taking the time to talk to us
pleasure.
today. Now, this is your official second time with us, but unofficial third time. Tell us about that.
When I was asked to come and conduct Berlin Philharmoniker, it was maybe 15 years ago or even more. You can imagine for a youngish conductor, it's an incredible, exciting news. And it so happened that just a couple of weeks before the official debut, I got a call that Barenboim had either withdrawn or gotten sick or something like that, and could I do the week? And I think the reason they called me is because the Nielsen Violin Concerto was on the program, and maybe because I'm Nordic or have a Nordic name, they associate me with all the Nordic repertoire. And so I said yes, of course, and that was the real first time.
So it was 1 week before your real
No, I think
premiere.
it was maybe a couple of weeks, maybe 3 or 4 weeks before, and then was the official debut. And I remember this because it was the first time Berlin Philharmonic ever played a Britten piano concerto.
So why did you choose a Britten piano concerto for your premiere?
Leif Ove Ansnes, fantastic, wonderful pianist, had just recorded it. We, in fact, recorded it in Birmingham, and it just came out, and that was what they promoted here, and that was, so it was Benjamin Britten piano concerto. Before that was Cantus in Memory of Benjamin Britten by Arvo Pärt, and then Shostakovich 10. Very good program, because it's all sort of related, Pärt and Shostakovich and Britten and all this.
What do you remember about your premiere? What has changed in the Berlin Philharmonic, apart from the horn section?
Well, what I remember is not so much what has changed with Berlin Philharmonic, but what has changed with me, because there is one of the truths that one is always smart in retrospect, but if I would have been able to know what I know now, I would have probably not come here 10, 15 years ago.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
Well, because I wasn't ready.
Is that, and what you mean in
I
what
wasn't
you know
ready
now?
because I think that this is an orchestra that you graduate, you come here when you know what you're doing. And I think that a lot of young conductors, including me, because it's almost impossible. It's one of those things that you just cannot say no to Berlin Philharmonic. So the temptation is so incredible, and yet deep down you know that, well, I probably need another 10 years.
What is it exactly about the orchestra that makes people think that? They're great players, but
no, well,
are they scary?
It's not a question of scary. There is just so much respect. There is so much history. There is so much of a. It's this whole myth about Berlin Philharmonic, and which happens to be kind of true, And so we all grew up, and especially in my family, we grew up in a conductor's family, listening to Berlin Philharmonic maybe daily, seeing the pictures of Karajan and Furtwängler around our house. I mean, this is not no joke. So on one hand, you feel incredibly flattered by being asked. On the other hand, you probably should insist on saying no for a long time, which I was not smart enough to do.
Would that be your advice for younger conductors?
Absolutely. But this is the whole thing, is that there are so many other forces, there are so many other currents that guide a young conductor. There are managers, there are career considerations, and all of this actually should not be so important. Important should actually to stick with one orchestra somewhere that is a little bit off the beaten track and just learn how to do it.
That's hard for young conductors.
But it's impossible because today young conductor is not anymore 40 years old. Today young conductor is 19. At 19 you might be incredibly talented, but there are a lot of other things that you still need to know. And then every single person in the orchestra is a master, a real master. Not only of their own instrument, but master of psychology. They know how to just look at you long enough for you to kind of lose all your confidence, You know as a horn player how that works. So as a young person, you just need to just keep away from it a little bit. But this is how it works.
Would you say that you're enjoying yourself much more this week? It seemed like this week that you were really enjoying it.
A lot. But it's a little bit of a different time, because I pretty much have done nothing but conduct for 25 years. So
Looking
learn,
at your
you know.
at your biography, it's like they must have a clone of you somewhere, because you are everywhere and you do so much. You have all sorts of chief conductor positions, and how do you manage all this? How did you even find time to conduct us this week?
Well, you know, one makes time. If Berlin Philharmoniker, I think one makes time, but there are two sides to this. One is that the guest conducting part of our profession is very exciting, and yet it is something that it has its limitations. It's guest conducting. It's a guest. The word guest already says it all. You come into a situation that is not yours and not familiar to you, and you need to have respect for the tradition of the orchestra. On the other hand, you also need to bring something of your own. And so this is a kind of a in-between situation. While with your own orchestras, they know you, you know them, you have a established relationship. They know your strengths and weaknesses. I know their strengths and weaknesses. We help each other. We like each other. We know little things about how one person reacts. So who needs a babysitter, and who needs a friend, and who needs a teacher, and who needs I don't know, some kind of a more pedantic figure. You know the details about musicians. It's these musicians you've spent all this time on the tours. You've done a lot of just battle together, you know, in a positive sense, and sometimes negative as well. And so
that's why you feel more comfortable in the principal conductor position.
Yes, because guest is a guest, and on the other hand, it is a lot of fun. Also
the new is also
it's just like in any relationship. Yeah. I mean, a long relationship is very satisfying, and sometimes the shortest things can also be very exciting. Not necessarily very good, but very exciting.
So, being a guest conductor, do you get to decide what you're going to play? Did you decide this program for this week?
It's always a little bit of a negotiation. It depends on, I mean, for example, we have just recorded this Hindemith concerto with Frank-Peter Zimmermann. I have conducted this piece only with him, believe it or not.
The CD is coming out this week, I believe.
The CD is coming out this week on BIS label. And I must say, even though it will sound terribly self-congratulatory here, but you will not find a better.
You can tell in the rehearsals.
Frank-Peter, it's just, I'm telling you, get the CD.
And you two work really very well together. It's very noticeable in the rehearsals.
But he's wonderful. And he really believes in this piece. He's charmed by it, which is another important thing, because with Hindemith, very often people either they like it or dislike it. It's not. He genuinely seems to be charmed by it, and that comes across. I happen to be very charmed by it, and find all these little Kreisler moments and his little Tchaikovsky quotations and little Brahmsian second movement. You know, like a Brahms concerto starts with this wonderful wind section in the beginning of the Brahms second. It's a little homage to Brahms, starting with this wind chorale, and you have many little beginning. It's of course a little nod to Beethoven. So there are a lot of little things. Hindemith had a wonderful sense of humor. One needs to find it in his music.
One needs to find it. I remember we had this conversation earlier on in the week.
And not to concentrate on this pedantic correctness, but the humor and the lightness of his music. And he is wonderful.
So in this piece, do you see this as a particularly typically Hindemith piece?
It is a typically Hindemith piece. It is just that one of the things that I don't like about this, even that sentence, typically Hindemith, because it implies something boring, something pedantic, something slightly grey, and it has a reason. People have a right to feel like this about Hindemith, because very often there is this sort of dum da dum dum boom boom boom, this kind of correctness and stiffness that doesn't I think really do any justice to Hindemith, and I think it is not really intended that way. Also, the music is so complicated rhythmically and so complex that very often, in order to keep everything, especially in older times, keep everything together and transparent, one had to kind of zero in and take slower tempi and make everything pedantic. Now we can see the bigger picture and see a line, and within that there are these wonderful complex rhythmic things that need to work, but they do not need to become a lesson.
You and Frank Peter work very well together. We can tell this. I mean, the orchestra can smell this, and you're both really enjoying doing this piece. And I think you're selling it to us very well because, as you say,
well, I was hoping to convince you.
Yeah, we had
like
this conversation
yes.
earlier in the week that I was not the biggest Hindemith fan. It's getting there. This piece has certainly helped.
By the third concert, I think that I think that you will will convert you into a Hindemith lover.
What's Frank Peter like? What's it like working with him?
He's one of the most amazing violinists that is alive today. I mean, I have an incredible luck of working with really the best violinists, with Janine, with Kavakos, with Christian Tetzlaff, many others, Lisa Batishvili.
Saw it on Facebook.
Wonderful. And so I'm very fortunate to have this possibility to work with all these people, and working with Frank Peter, there's something wonderfully old world about him. He sort of stands there and plays, and reminds me a little bit of Oistrach, or something that where there's not much movement going on, but everything is worked out. There is a color, a sound, there's a chord to the sound, there is a incredible technical capacity. It seems like it just happens, and I know that it doesn't just happen. It takes a lot of work, and it's wonderful how he's able to just come and do it. He also is somebody who knows details about the score. He knows exactly what he wants in the brass section. He knows exactly how all the things that I'm asking, for example, for the brass to do this forzati, whatever, it's something that he has to ask me. In fact, he has, in a way, sort of sold the piece to me and completely convinced me about it.
Yeah, fantastic. No, it's been a lot of fun playing Hindemith. The Beethoven I've really enjoyed, Sibelius as well, but the Beethoven, you have quite special tempos. Your Beethoven recordings with the Kammerphilharmonie won a lot of awards. And are you doing similar things with us that you have metronome markings you were talking about in the rehearsal?
You know, Beethoven gave metronome markings to all his symphonies, and I am not at all the type who is sort of insisting and pedantically sticking to a metronome, because metronome anyway is a kind of a ballpark figure. It's the area that we need to sort of be in, but it's music is flexible. Music always changes. There is no right or wrong. Now, the tradition, and I grew up with the Beethoven of Berlin Philharmonic. In fact, I have all the 3 sets of Karajan and everything else you've ever done here. And so when you look at the young Karajan doing the Beethoven, which I think is a wonderful set, it's very impetuous. It brings out something that later recordings didn't, because there was a sense of orchestra became more romantic, a little bit more indulging in the beautiful sound rather than seeing a lot of little inner details. It's a matter of choice. Everybody has the right to do what they want. I do believe that Beethoven, you know, we have this notion. Okay, he gave these metronome markings later. He was already old and he was deaf, and his metronome wasn't working well. I mean, really. I mean, he was deaf, but he wasn't stupid, you know. He could have fixed his metronome. I mean, we are using very often these excuses to justify a little bit of the kind of laziness that creeps into this performance of Beethoven, because one thinks, well, it's always done like this, maybe it's right.
I like the way you make us play your tempi. I mean, as you say, the Berlin Philharmonic has a great tradition of these things, and we have the tempis that we know and love. And for example, in the second movement, you really get us moving.
You know, there is always a middle ground, because I also think that for me, to force something that is truly unnatural to the orchestra is also not wise.
But they're enjoying it.
But I think that now I have finally found this thing that works for both of us, and I think it's closer to what Beethoven meant. I mean, the early symphonies especially are full of humor, full of charm, full of rather unexpected humor, which, you know, I mean, what kind of a finale? I mean, you have a chord and you think, now comes the real end of the big symphony, you know, and then every single step he takes will make you wonder more. Now what? No, what? Huh? Yeah. And then he said, no, just kidding. It's so charming, but one needs to find that playfulness. That doesn't mean that the serious stuff doesn't exist, but they're finding the right balance. And
for me, it's a very cheerful piece this week.
It's fantastic.
It really is.
It's you know, we are talking a lot about the youth cult that our society is going on, which is fair enough. It's exactly what's happening. But if you look at the genius of youth, or the power of youth, if you look at the First Symphony of Beethoven, First Piano Concerto of Beethoven, look at Mozart, young Mendelssohn, Bizet, these the early pieces. There is something that in the later music they never regained. They never were able to reproduce. And having little kids, I see the kind of incredible joy that they can have out of nowhere. And then we go to school and they beat us into not following those instincts. And you have to do things correctly. And I know it feels like this, but don't follow your instincts. Do something else because this is not right. And now I'm sort of trying to get back to that place where I think if it's fun, if it sounds like fun, it should be fun. We should not suppress it. And finding that child.
Okay, so the fun in Sibelius.
Oh, Sibelius is something that I completely love, because again, not really the music that is as often played here as I think it should.
Simon's done Simon loves Sibelius. We did the whole cycle of it.
I love the Birmingham set of Simon's. That's one of the best ones, and especially the Third Symphony is just was a revelation when I listened to it. The whole Birmingham set was incredible, and being kind of with a name like Paavo Järvi, which is not an Estonian name, it's a really Finnish name, and so and the reason it's Paavo because Paavo Berglund was my godfather, and that's
I
why
didn't
my
find
name
that on Google.
See, that's the thing. These are things you won't find.
Yeah.
And when I was born, I was named after Paavo Berglund because my parents were very, very good friends, and so he was a fantastic Sibelius conductor. In fact, he met Sibelius. And he told me the story about the meeting of Sibelius. He said that he put on a tie and everything, and Sibelius was already old man, and he was waiting in Ainola for a long time, and then door opened and said, "You can come. Sibelius will see you now." And he was a young conductor, quite nervous, and it was a great Sibelius who was going to see him. And the meeting was like this. So he said, "Have you ever played music by Schoenberg?" Sibelius asked. And Berglund said, "No." Okay, and that was it. He was just, at that time, he was so preoccupied already that he was not anymore the avant-garde, and Schoenberg and the whole Second Viennese school is taking over, that he wanted somebody who actually is in the music business or music world to tell him about Schoenberg. Have you ever done it? What do you think of this? And he hasn't, and that was the end of the conversation. Finns, they like short
sentences. Did Paavo Berglund give you any tips about Sibelius 5?
No, we never talked about the actual performing either editions. He told me one thing, very interesting thing. He said that this edition that we are using now, he said that was a Paavo Berglund edition, was supposed to have all these critical markings, but he said everything there is rubbish because they made so many mistakes that just don't take any of this seriously. That's what he said. So sorry about the publishers, but but that he said that everything I said and everything I marked, they just marked it up. So it's not.
Well, our digital concert hall viewers have got a great concert in store for them with a really mixed bag: Beethoven, Hindemith, and Sibelius. That's not really a program.
Well, actually, it's a program of pieces that everybody should know, and everybody knows the name of the composers, and yet they are not as well known as they should be. So a little bit sort of hidden gems, the diamonds in the rough.
Diamonds in the rough, indeed. You last time you were here, there wasn't the digital concert hall, and this time is your digital concert hall premiere. And yes. I know you're quite a social media person. We're friends on Facebook.
Absolutely,
and
yes.
Twitter,
yes.
And I think this is great that you do all this, because it's fantastic to get the message out
I always
there.
I always watch, and I'm very charmed by everything you do, because you have all these wonderful interactions with people all over the world, chat and this is wonderful. Actually, this is one of the things that classical music in general is not very good at. We are the last ones who are really able to utilize the social media.
That's why I think it's so great that you're doing all this.
Well, yes, but I am doing it as a private person. To be able to do it on behalf of an orchestra is really wonderful, because this builds audiences in a way that nothing else will.
How do you think classical music is going to evolve in the digital world?
I think it's a complex issue because of the rights and because of all the financial issues and because of the union issues and because of the just legal issues.
I just wonder if someday that it's all going to give up.
Well, I think that they shouldn't give up, but they need to be realistic about the gains that they can make by being part of it, and how far they can actually lag behind if they do not actively somehow become part of the 21st century. I mean, today people don't even write emails to each other. I mean, it's a very generational thing as well, but I mean, it's all about Facebook, it's all about Twitter, it's all about social media, and information is being disseminated by social media. I find out very often about some major events that happen not from CNN necessarily, but from somebody tweeting it or somebody putting it on the Facebook.
Do you think that's a good thing or a bad thing? I
think it's a very good thing. At the end of the day, it's in your power to just push the button and say, okay, I've had enough tweets for today. But I think that being that connected allows you to be more informed.
Is there a danger of taking this glamour away from the classical music world, or do you think that's something good if we take a little bit of that glamour away?
I think we shouldn't take any glamour away. I think the more glamorous, the better. But that kind of an elitist, stuffy stuff that is going on is like, and it's something that has this traditional stiffness that I think doesn't help us. It doesn't help any young people to come to the concert hall. I think that also there is just so much information that unless we actively put our stuff out there, it's not going to be seen by a lot of people. It needs to be, we build communities. If most of the people that are my so-called friends on Facebook are people who either like music or like me or somehow have some connection to me. So it's a captive audience. It's not audience of I don't know, bikers,
Well, you never know. What about a rock guitar audience? Because you used to be a pop star.
No, I was never a pop star. When I was in Estonia, we created a rock band just for fun, and it was a kind of a.
You were pretty good.
Yes,
I heard.
We were good, but I'm just praying that there was no tapes or anything from that time, because maybe I were terrible.
That would be something to get our audience looking for.
I really am hoping that there is nothing of this.
Could you imagine doing any sort of crossover stuff and going back to those roots?
I have done in Frankfurt something which I thought was a lot of fun. We did this music discovery project, which is once a year, once a season, and it is an interesting experiment to bring somebody from a different field, pop star, a DJ, somebody from an entirely different angle, and I did this wonderful concert with Paul Van Dyck, whose name unfortunately I'm ashamed to say I didn't know before, and then I realized that he's one of the biggest superstars DJs, and he's somebody who does a lot of this. I mean, his schedule makes my schedule look like a vacation. Ooh. He would literally be in Mexico in one night, and next night he might be in somewhere in England, and the next night he might be in Brazil, and it's all these nightclubs where 10,000 people, 5,000 people, they're all sort of entranced, and he composes his own stuff. And we did this wonderful thing where we did Holst Planets, and he recomposed. So we play with orchestra Holst Planets or something, and then a very professional set of arrangers kind of make something coexist with his electronic world. And I must say it was a lot of fun. what is the paradox about it?
Did you play?
No, I was conducting.
You were conducting.
But no, because there's all sorts of
Would you play
computers
again?
I was a drummer, you know. I was a.
You were a drummer.
I was a drummer.
See, I'm sorry about that. Google didn't give me that much information.
No drummer, but
I knew you were in a band.
Yes, no drummer, really. I mean,
drummers are the coolest.
Yes, that's true, and that's why I was a drummer.
Of course, and obviously conductors are the coolest too.
Especially the drum playing conductors.
Yeah.
But do you know that Simon Rattle is a conductor? Do you know?
A drummer. I know he's a conductor.
I knew he was. My father was a drummer. There is a surprising amount of percussionists, famous percussionists, famous conductors who become
percussionists.
Same as
drummers.
Percussionists who became conductors. Yes.
Yeah.
So there is some connection, maybe rhythm.
Rhythm is it. Yeah. It's all about the rhythm.
I think that this crossover thing can work well unless it becomes a kind of a, you know, this sort of thing where pop songs are orchestrated and the strings are playing long notes and this sort of thing that there's nothing wrong with it, but it's not interesting for us to do. In general, I think we don't need to worry so much about crossing over, but one can be open to various things. The interesting thing about this one thing I did with this Paul van Dyk is that, you know, Estonia has 1.5 million people. Everybody should know, and I think we do know who I am, and I think at least, and my family, and especially my father. I got emails and Facebook messages from people in Estonia who thought or discovered me, thought that I was really cool because they saw on YouTube a concert with a German DJ. So this shows you how
it's the power of social media these days.
So
yeah.
You never know. You never know how things are related.
Well, through the power of this social media, we're going to be broadcasting your concert live, and I hope all the 1.5 million people in Estonia will be watching.
I hope so too. I hope so too.
Thank you for bringing such an interesting program to us this week. It's been a lot of fun, and please come back very, very soon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.